Boasting exquisite detail in the sculpt, beautifully accurate paint, a plethora of accessories, and a surprisingly high level of articulation for its age, the Soul of Chogokin GD-98 Mechagodzilla truly stands out as one of the best Mechagodzilla figures I've had the pleasure of owning. And after this video is all said and done, I'm sure you'll agree with me. But before we get too ahead of ourselves looking at the figure, I want to take a moment to appreciate the box this figure comes in and my unboxing experience as a whole. Those eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed this figure in my last video when talking about JPfans, which is indeed where I ordered this figure from. The full unboxing is available as a YouTube short, but I'll briefly detail that experience here. Purchasing this figure through JPfans was quick and easy. Not only did JPfans ship it out in a super timely manner, they also made sure it was packed really well too, which I appreciate. If you're looking for rare and sought after figures straight from Japan for a great price, JPfans has you covered. And if you sign up with the link in my description, you can get up to $86 in shipping coupons. Thanks again to JPfans for making this review possible. Now, let's get back to Mechagodzilla. Beautiful product shots of the figure can be found all over the box, showcasing the figure's many accessories and features. And trust me when I say this figure truly does deliver on all that is advertised. The figure itself is safely housed in a block of foam with some plastic wrap. The first thing you'll notice after taking it out is its weight. Mechagodzilla here has some solid heft to him thanks to the added diecast in the feet and the lower legs. Because of this, the figure can actually stand quite well without its tail. But once that piece goes on, Mechagodzilla truly comes alive. This figure, despite being a toy first and foremost, is still relatively accurate to the screen-used suit. All the bells and whistles are here, with the most important being that MG2 emblem, which is sculpted beautifully and painted perfectly. The whole figure actually has some really nice detail. Mechagodzilla has some nice texture to him found all over the metal panels, which make up the majority of the figure, with some nice gunmetal bands and a plethora of rivets present to help break up the sculpt further. The head of Mechagodzilla is definitely the best example of this, perfectly marrying the sculpt, paint, and textures. Other highlights include the legs and the lower arms. Now, the shoulders of Mechagodzilla do sit just a tad low, but this doesn't distract from the figure too much. If you want a true distraction, look at the figure from the back. Truly, the only really devastating thing about this figure are these screw holes. That beautiful front sculpt comes at a cost, with these screw holes definitely being a bit of an eyesore, and probably the one true issue holding this figure back. Thankfully, Mechagodzilla being a mechanical character helps minimize the impact of the screw holes, but there's no denying the fact that they are still a detractor for the figure. Overall though, Mechagodzilla here displays an impressive level of quality for a toy of its age, and we haven't even talked about the functions and accessories yet. Now this figure does come with a plethora of accessories and gimmicks, all of which are definitely very, very cool. On the back of Mechagodzilla's head is a button cleverly engineered into the spines. Pushing this button makes Mechagodzilla's head spin in a full 360, which is definitely a fun gimmick. In addition to the normal head, you also get an angled head for flight mode, which is very, very cool. And finally, for the spare heads, there is an additional secondary head for Mechagodzilla, allowing him to operate if Godzilla so chooses to take off his head again. The button still works for all three heads as well, which is definitely very cool, and I'm glad Bandai was able to implement that feature. Now, no Mechagodzilla figure is complete without some alt hands used to convey a post-finger missile attack. The final accessory included with this figure is a real piece of metal that's supposed to emulate the space titanium the character is made up of. Maybe if you buy several thousand copies of this figure, you could build your own 1-to-1 scale Mechagodzilla. Now, articulation on this figure is actually rather nice. You'd think for its age it wouldn't have a super crazy amount of movable parts, and while that is indeed correct, what we do get is very serviceable, and Mechagodzilla can pull off some really interesting poses because of it. The jaw can open and close, the head and torso are both on a 360 swivel, the shoulders are on a limited ball joint, there's a nice bicep swivel, the elbows have a dated single 90-degree bend, and the hands are on a 360 swivel. The hips can move front, back, in and out to a limited degree. The knees are on a very nice double ratchet joint. And the ankles are on a ball joint. Finally, the tail has a limited side-to-side bend, but can also be fully lengthened out to achieve flight mode. Finally, for some quick size comparisons, here's our Mechagodzilla next to some other Bandai Mechagodzilla figures. And here is our Bandai Chogokin Mechagodzilla figure next to some other standard Chogokin figures I have in my collection. Overall, I have to say this figure is probably the best articulated Showa Mechagodzilla figure we have in this relative scale, and I think it will stay that way until Haya makes one of their own, or SH Monster Arts releases their own 1975 Mechagodzilla, because that 1974 Mechagodzilla figure is just bad. Mechagodzilla here has an exquisite sculpt and shelf presence, boasting fantastic detail, paint applications, and fitting accessories. He moves very well for his age, and surprisingly still holds up. On top of this, it stands decently well next to your other related figures. I genuinely think if you're a fan of the Showa Mechagodzilla, you owe it to yourself to track this thing down. Either this release, or the 1974 release, or any other variety of this figure. There's several. There's some with chrome. I think there's even a dark black one. Any one of this figure would be definitely very cool and very neat to add to your collection. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and thank you JPfans for helping me acquire this beautiful figure. I've been Daikaiju Down Under, and I'll see you in the next video.